Welcome back. It's exactly 8:40 a.m. This is News and Views on Salam Media, and next online, we'll be talking with Thapelo Mohapi, General Secretary of Abahlali baseMjondolo. Thapelo, very good morning to you. Welcome to the program.
Good morning to you. Good morning to the listeners. Always a pleasure to be on Salam Media.
Thank you indeed. Okay, so we're talking about something pretty serious this morning. It's the housing crisis clash, and your movement, Abahlali baseMjondolo, are saying that the Gauteng Premier, Panyaza Lesufi, has declared war on the poor. Explain.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity once again. I think it must be clear that in terms of the Constitution, Section 26 of the Constitution, subsection 3, states very well that no one may demolish or distract or destroy anyone's home without providing an alternative accommodation. So arbitrary eviction in this country is unlawful. So it is unfortunate that a head of the province could utter words such as going to destroy, demolish people's homes at 2 a.m. In the morning. Only the apartheid government did that. Only an apartheid minister or an apartheid prime minister would say something of that nature. So we were very surprised that after 30 years of democracy, the freedom that was fought for and attained, that we have leaders like Panyaza Lesufi who will utter words like that about the poor. In fact, it's criminalizing the poor. Poverty should not be criminalized. Poverty should be dealt with in a respectful way. People who are living in informal settlement are human beings like anyone else. We are just in the state of being impoverished at the moment. It doesn't mean that people build shacks because they want to live under these conditions. There are conditions in the informal settlement are very inhumane, and no one wants to live because of desperation and poverty, unemployment. People end up moving into the cities to seek better opportunities and, of course, seek accommodation and build the structures. So for him to go out and speak in the manner that he did against the poor, it was unfortunate and misplaced.
Okay, Panyaza Lesufi claims that most shack dwellers in illegal settlements, and he stresses on the word illegal settlements, are undocumented and organized by criminal syndicates.
Well, right now, there is a shooting of 5 criminals in the informal settlement in Chatsworth. The people who are there are using the informal settlement as a hideout. Those are people who are coming from well-to-do places in other areas. So informal settlements are not a place where there's criminality. Criminals come from outside and use informal settlement as a hideout. So it is very unfortunate that someone like a premier would not understand that. But it shows how determined this government is on the ground, because he would not understand what I understand now, which I alluded to you, that there are ordinary poor men and women who are law-abiding citizens in this country who live in informal settlement because they have no choice out of desperation. And drugs are not manufactured by poor people who are living in informal settlement. They are coming from outside, and those are the people that should be dealt with, because those are the people who want to ensure that the status quo of informal settlement remains, because they harbor from it and make profit out of it. And that's why you'll find that these people who are doing shack farming, who are renting out shacks, would be in the way for people getting any development. And those are the things that we are saying we can if government give us an ear. There is a policy that needs to be implemented, and that is the upgrading of informal settlement policy. That policy speaks to all these issues, and it will be able to deal with all these issues, and it would formalize informal settlements. It will also provide services incrementally to the informal settlements, so that we don't have any informal settlement that is owned by either a migrant who is not from in South Africa, or criminals are able to hide out, because thus the upgrading of informal settlement policy will ensure that the only existence of informal settlements belongs to certain individuals with IDs and so forth. But the government does not want to do that, because they want to, they want the backlog to remain at 300,000, for instance. But not everyone who lives in the informal settlements is a beneficiary or qualifies for this. But if we are giving security of tenure, which the policy speaks to, people will start building formally, and we will be able to have access road, and the shacks will not be congested, and we will not have criminals hiding out as a result of the congestion that is in the informal settlements.
Okay, so on your part, you are looking at government formalizing informal settlements. Will that guarantee then, as Lesufi is claiming, that the majority of illegal settlements really harbor undocumented foreigners and also organized criminal syndicates? If currently those settlements are unable to contain the criminality or rid the settlements of criminality, how is a more formal structure going to address those problems?
Well, and first and foremost, I think it's a wrong approach when people's homes are called illegal. There are people who are living there. When government does not register them, she should not be called. They should not be called illegal, because they are residing there out of desperation and want to be closer to opportunities. I think one of the things that causes the criminality to take place in the informal settlement is because, there are no services that are provided. I think first and foremost, we must realize that providing something such as water and electricity and access roads and services such as waste collection in the informal settlement, that on its own is violating people's rights, and people who are treated in that manner are bound to have a lot of criminal elements that are taking place in that particular area, because their dignity and respect is not recognized. So we are just a people that are not counted in the eyes of the government, and we are treated as outsiders. And of course, you're bound to see such elements in a violent society. So not providing services such as water and electricity is violence on its own. No one must live without water. It's a basic necessity. No one must live with waste for 2 months before the municipality collects it. That's violence on its own. So before we can speak about violence, we must speak about the violence that comes from the state to the poor. It's often referred that when people start protesting, they're engaging in violent protests, but no one speaks about the violence that happens every day, where people in Chatsworth wake up for 7 days without water in Wilbur Dutch East as we speak. Nobody speaks about that type of violence. But the violence that is spoken about mostly is the criminality that takes place that does not come from the informal settlement. It's the protest when people start blockading the road. That's the only violence that people speak about. But the violence that comes from government, no one really speaks about that.
So that's the pushback from the settlements. Regarding Panyaza Lesufi and his stance on settlements, illegal or otherwise, and you prefer not to refer to them as illegal settlements. What's the way forward? Have you engaged with him directly as a committee? How do you believe this can and will be resolved? We do know that this is a huge problem for the current government. There's issues around, as you've indicated, and as we're all aware, is shortage of land, the resources that would be needed to formalize these settlements, and then ensuring that basic services are provided for people to regain their dignity and start rebuilding their lives around these settlements. How far down the line are these talks? Because it is doable. I
Yeah.
firmly believe it is doable. And if the residents in these settlements see a ray of hope, you can get them. You can get them involved in taking pride in the areas where they live and to upkeep and to maintain the areas in a dignified manner. Are you with us?
Yes, yes, I'm still with you. I think one of the things that needs to be done by government is actually provide services, services to the poor, and these incremental services, access roads. I mean, services when they are provided to informal settlement, they are provided as a by the way type of thing. So government never, I mean, when waste is collected, it's normally collected after a week. Children are playing with worms. Sometimes the VIP toilets, the temporary toilet that are put in the informal settlements, waste, human waste is not collected on time. But there are many issues that we need to deal with in the first place. One is, of course, the reason why these toilets, the temporary toilet names, is so that somebody could get a tender. So they keep the status quo so that someone who's actually providing these toilets continue to have these tenders, and government waste millions of rands on temporary toilets, whereas they could be building infrastructure in the informal settlement. So we are calling on the government to go on a radical development, provide service sites for people who are living in informal settlement, provide incremental services, and then allow those who can build for themselves to build according to the plans of the municipalities, Spluma, and others who cannot build, of course, will then rely on the government. So I can assure you that the backlog of housing in South Africa is not as it is at the moment, but it's because government is failing to actually, radically approach the issue of land and of course of housing in South Africa. Not everyone who lives in the shack is.
Okay, so you've
privileged.
raised some very, very pertinent and serious issues regarding the situation of the informal settlements. Have you had any positive response from government or from Panyaza Lesufi himself?
Um, Not yet, but we, as a group of civil organizations in Johannesburg and Gauteng at large, we have reached out to him and asked him to give us an ear so that we can advise on some of those issues. But one of the things that has happened in this country has that assumption that people who are living in shack settlements cannot be a solution to the problem that they are facing. And we are saying, don't speak about the people in the informal settlement. Speak to them about their situations, and are the ones who know how to get out of the situation that they are facing. We can think for ourselves. We can plan our own townships, and if that is allowed, we will then be able to give solutions to the crisis that we are facing in this country. But if you sideline us, there will be corruption, as we have seen in KwaZulu-Natal, where houses that were supposed to be provided to the poor were allocated by councillors on the bonnet of a car. We've seen recently the minister coming to hand over houses. We've now, since December, that 2 of those houses that the minister came to hand over, she handed over to the wrong people. We have a comment now of people who say, I have proof that I should be allocated a house, but the house has been allocated to someone else. Those issues, if people are involved on the ground, a movement like ourselves can assist in that regard. So we are saying that as the poor, government must not speak about us, but they must speak to us, help, and we can help in the situation.
Absolutely, and that's where we leave it. We do hope you'll keep us in the loop as hopefully there'll be progress on this matter. Thapelo Mohapi, General Secretary of Abahlali, baseMjondolo, thank you indeed for being with us on the show this morning. Go well and God bless.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
8